Midnight Double Feature presents Bad Crystal, a Breaking Bad podcast. On this episode, we bring you our Season 1 wrap-up with special guests Floyd Frye and Carlos Freytes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Bad Crystal, a Breaking Bad podcast. This is going to be a bonus episode of sorts. We have completed Season 1. You guys would have listened to all 7 episodes of Season 1 by this point. Our 2 guests have not listened to Season 1. So, by this time, you guys have listened to Pilot, Cats in the Bag, and The Bags in the River, Cancer Man, Grey Matter, Crazy Handful of Nothing, and No Rough Stuff type deal. So, hopefully you guys have got those under your belt before you get to this episode, because this is a Season 1 wrap-up. We're going to be covering off Season 1 with 2 guests, because, honestly, if it was just Collin and I, then it would just be literally just us going through 7 episodes again.
Yeah.
So that's why we really wanted to bring on a couple of awesome guests for this particular episode. In the right corner, we have Floyd Frye from the Pop List podcast. Thank you so much, Floyd, for joining us. How you doing, man?
Thanks for having me on, man. I'm doing very well and excited to be able to talk about Breaking Bad. It's one of my favorite TV shows, as a matter of fact, and I'm not, this is no hyperbole. I tell people I think it's the best TV show ever made.
Absolutely.
Man.
Coming in hot, man. Like
Nice.
We're living in the golden age of TV, and that's slowly becoming one of the hardest sentences I have to say, that it's one of the greatest TV shows of all time, because there's so much. We'll get into it. There's just so much out there now.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so thank you so much for joining us, and I promise this won't be a 8-hour extravaganza back-to-back recording like we had for Mad Max, because that was rough.
Yeah,
that was the longest day of my life. And in the okay, so I said right. In the left corner, in the left corner of the ring is.
Holds his finger up like left.
In the left corner of the ring is Carlos Freytes from Hey Do You Remember? A good long-time friend of the show. How you doing, dude?
Hey, man, it's so weird to see your face moving with sound coming out of it. Thanks for having me
weird. It's weird, man. We're honestly, we're glad to have you here. I was just literally, just before we jumped onto this, I was listening to your latest episode, A Knight's Tale. And I was like, oh, I'm literally about to be able to speak to this guy. It's just so weird, man. But look, this particular episode doesn't have a full-on structure or anything like that. If you've listened to our Bad Crystal episodes, we take them chronologically, start, middle, and end. This is kind of like, because it's a wrap-up, we're going to kind of like let you guys know how we came about this particular show. Episode 1 listeners will be able to know like how Collin and I came about it. But Floyd and Carlos, give us your story about how you came across Breaking Bad. Did you watch it while it was on air, or did it come like after the fact? Floyd, you go first. Hit me first.
So I had a little bit of a, I guess, original experience. It wasn't really binging it, and I didn't watch it live, but I kind of did both. So what happened was, I think it was after Season 3, AMC, which I think we also need to mention that was on some weird channel at that point in time, right? You know what I mean? It was like a little off the beaten path. Like it was before Walking Dead and everything. You know what I mean? So
that's a new perspective for me, because I don't have AMC. Like here it premiered on, I guess Channel 9 or some shit,
Yeah. And what happened was, after Season 3, before the premiere of Season 4, they started showing 2 episodes in order a night. So I kind of didn't binge it. I watched 2 episodes a night for 3 weeks or whatever it was to catch up. So kind of binged it, but kind of watched it live. And then I watched it weekly after that for season 4 and 5.
Nice. And I mean, so when you watched the first episode you were introduced to, did you at the time know that you were being introduced to something special? Like,
Yes.
did you like?
Yeah. It had already become kind of a cultural phenomenon. I mean, everybody was talking about Breaking Bad.
It was in the zeitgeist.
So yeah, so when I just happened to stumble across it where they were going to start this marathon, and I was like, wow, I'll watch this show, and pleasantly surprised. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. Carlos, what about you?
I started watching right before season 2 was about to begin, so they ran a little marathon of season 1, and I was heavy into the internet blogosphere zeitgeist. It wasn't so much Reddit as it was like I don't know if you guys remember before Bill Simmons had The Ringer, he had Grantland, which was like my favorite website maybe ever. Yeah. A lot of the same writers that are on The Ringer now, and a lot of their podcast network are guys who were on Grantland, and it was, for me, it was like a brand new, I didn't know you could write articles like this. Everything up to that point always felt like clickbait, and this was like, these were essays, and it was about pop culture. And not The Ringer, Grantland was pretty heavy into Mad Men and Breaking Bad, and the golden age of television. And I think they probably got me introduced to the idea of the show, and then I was like, I don't even know if I have AMC because it wasn't a channel I normally frequented. And then so I caught a few episodes. I don't know that I saw the first maybe 2 or 3 episodes the first time I watched it. But I caught it like midway through the first season, and then from there I watched it week to week. And it's a completely different experience watching it week to week than binging it. Like waiting,
100%.
especially Collin, especially these later seasons when it's just like, no, you can't end it here, no. And then just figuring out ways to
5B that pause in the middle.
And then like just figuring out ways to like sleep for a week so that you could wake up and watch another episode.
Man, I recently watched this show again, like through its entirety to show it to my mom because my mom's never seen it before. And we finished 5A, and I was like, Mom, I'm gonna make you wait 1 year. I'm gonna make you wait an entire year because that's the pain and agony that I had to feel. But yeah, look, all that aside, let's talk about season 1 as a whole. Again, Floyd and Carlos, you guys are gonna have to try and use your mental discretion here because all three of us have foreknowledge about how this show ends and how it, how particular characters develop, and even new characters that are not even introduced yet in season 1 that are going to be introduced in season 2. That will have a huge effect on Jesse and Walt going forward. Especially season 2. Season 2 is kind of like the I guess the turning point for a lot of the characters. So
can I interrupt?
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
binged this season again this week, except for the finale. I haven't gotten through the finale. So can you just tell me real quick, where are all the characters at the end of season 1?
Absolutely. So basically the way season 1 ends is with at the junkyard with Tuco. It's the beating that Tuco's henchman takes because Tuco's henchman says, just remember who you're working for to Walt and Jesse. And that leaves Walt and Jesse in like a, holy shit, who did we just make a deal with? Like, we just made an agreement to, what was it, £4 per week of meth. And, they come into this agreement and it's just like, we just made a deal with the devil. And that's the way the episode ends. Skylar.
I also think there's I think there's a point there too on that where Walt asks him to calm down, and it almost enrages him more, which would make them think like this guy isn't listening to us or reason in any way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This guy's like a bull, right? Like he's just like a bull that you can't apply reasoning to, you can't apply logic to. He's just a force of nature that's going to go from point A to B without any thought about who he hurts in the way. Like that's Tuco.
I just wasn't sure if Walt Jr. had developed superpowers yet, and if Skylar had become an astronaut.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ruin it for Collin, so.
I was gonna say, yeah, no, it ends with them running off with Amelia Earhart and Jim Morrison, or living in sin. You know,
that's a weird season.
Yeah, it's a little avant-garde. It gets kind of funky.
Gilligan cut.
I forgot how going back and watching that. I forgot how long it took for the blue meth to come in. I forgot that was kind of like a necessity thing for them or whatever. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when he hands Tuco the meth, and he's like, "Oh, it's blue. Why is it blue?" He's like, "Yeah, blue, red, yellow, whatever. Just get me more of that shit."
Yeah,
that's what he says, right?
Yeah.
And that's in the finale finale or either the second last episode, one of those. But like,
it's in the finale because I didn't see it today.
Right there, you go. So it's super late, and that becomes like a massive trademark, right? Like that is literally what Walt takes going forward. All right, let's talk about season 1 as a whole. Collin, you just watched the last 7 episodes over the last 7 weeks or so. Talk to me about what you thought about the first season of Breaking Bad. This experimental Bad Crystal podcast that we were like throwing out there. We're like, all right, let's see how we go. It's doing well. We're very happy with it, and we're obviously going to keep it going.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Actually, well, I feel like with this headphone in, I should be like, Zoheb, I'm here in my closet recording a Breaking Bad podcast. Like, I feel like I should be like a TV correspondent. No, I'm a notoriously bad television watcher. I don't like watching television. I don't like having to sit down and be patient and wait. And like, that's why I loved the only show that I've watched in its entirety is probably like Stranger Things, because it's like 12 episodes for 3 seasons. Like it's so small episodes, and that's probably the ones that I've seen. And it's that kind of genre stuff that I love, the science fiction, the 80s feel, love that kind of stuff. With Breaking Bad, I was like, that kind of sounds interesting. I like the paradox of like doing a bad thing for a good reason. Like that's kind of cool. Like that's interesting and has interesting like morality into it. So sitting down and actually like making myself watch it. And there was never a point that I'd like didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to come across like, I just don't feel like watching this. But there was never a point that I actively was like, I am excited to watch this. I'm like, well, yeah, we got another episode coming out. This is going to be something, I guess. I don't know. But and I knew certain stuff going into it. And I knew that, it's kind of like with Mad Men, Game of Thrones, oh God, what's the Wire? It's like these shows are good for a reason. And I think that maybe even though it's something that's outside of your zeitgeist or personal interest, you should still try and do that. And then I'm like, no, I'm just going to go play BioShock. Fuck it.
It's the
like
comfort
that's just
zone,
kind of my
right?
mentality.
Like you got to step out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Exactly. And, there was something about the show that was interesting to me, but at the same time, not like, it just didn't grab me by my ears and like really make me pay attention. But watching it so far, it is really interesting because the first season, I'm like, is this what this show is known for? And then you kind of hear people's opinions and they're like, no, the first season is kind of, it's really kind of getting its footing and stuff. And I tried to not let that affect my opinion as well. It was really hard, especially when you come 15 years late to a show. Like I had hair when this show came out. It's like a long time ago. And it's like I had a full head of hair, and it's hard to like not let other people's opinions kind of affect that, or the fact that like, you've got people as you're watching it. Like I've had friends that have messaged me and been like, hey, what do you think about the show? Do you like it so far? Like, do you love it? Like, do you love it? And I'm like, okay, dude, just okay. I'm so much pressure. But so far, I have really enjoyed it so far. I like seeing the switch from like, I have seen the say my name. Mm-hmm. Like I have seen those scenes before. I am the one who knocks. Like I've seen certain, it's impossible.
Context,
it's been 15 years. Like it's impossible. Right. Without context, like it's impossible to dodge those. If you are on the internet and you're a film guy, you're gonna see those eventually. So even that didn't really take it away from me. And I was like, how do I get from this guy who's washing cards and like, sweating all the time to like actually being this like badass guy? Like what is the turn, and what screws get pulled where, and which ones get pulled out, and like what is the chemistry that turns Walter White into Heisenberg. Like that was what I thought was interesting. I don't really give a fuck about cooking and selling meth. Like I love, like Blow with Johnny Depp. I love autobiographies about like crazy drug smuggling, stuff like that. But the fictionalized account, I was just kind of like, meh, that's cool, whatever. Like I'm down. I think it'll be interesting. But it's really not the drug parts of it that are even really interesting to me. And I thought that's what might have been the case. Like, I thought that's what might have been really interesting to me. Jesus Christ. And I'm like, the ramifications of that are insane. So like watching something like this, where I was like, I knew this was going to be huge. And like, if Walter White was a real life person, the insane like ramifications that would have is what was really interesting to me. And it kind of motivated me a little bit more to watch it. And, seeing it, it's interesting because it's more of a story about seeing Walter become a person who makes his own decisions. That's the most interesting thing about the first season to me, is watching someone who's like, is almost forsaking everything, forsaking family, forsaking comfort, forsaking health, and just being like, no, I could, because at the end of the day, I don't know, I don't want to like blow my load too early, but there's so much stuff where it's like, if taking care of your family and saving up the money and making sure that your family is okay, you had that option at some point in the season. That is obviously not your prerogative. That's the point that I was like, that is interesting. I think that might be the point that's the most interesting to me in the whole season. But seeing, it's a good first season. I think if it's an indication of where the show is going to go, I think that's going to be really fantastic, because the first season it's not anything that like, when you get a good book and you just start power reading and you just can't put the book down. I didn't feel that way about the first season, but I didn't go back and return the book. You know what I mean? So I feel like the second season and going forward will just only amplify and get better. But the first season so far has treated me very well. And I'm surprised because, well, like what Carlos said is he was like, yeah, back then I was having to watch one episode at a time. And I was like, oh yeah, like me, like fucking me right now. I was like, that's what I'm having to do. Like I didn't even watch, because technically we had not decided to do this yet after we finished like the first season. So I was like, oh, I can go ahead and watch the first episode of season 2. I haven't. And I'm really glad I didn't, because now I have no knowledge. Like I have absolutely no knowledge of the second season going into a season 1 recap. So I'm happy about that. And I'm happy to kind of see where the show goes and eventually get into like El Camino and Better Call Saul and the Vince Gilligan extended universe. I think that'll be really interesting to kind of get into. Yeah. And I fucking love Bob Odenkirk, dude. Bob's Burgers, like all the Adult Swim stuff he did. Like he's in Seinfeld, for God's sakes, in like 2 episodes. Like I love Bob Odenkirk, like the Mr. Show with David Cross. And I was like, dude, this guy, he's going to be phenomenal in the show. I know he will. So I really can't wait for him to pop up. But so far, the first season treated me good. I liked it.
He's got such a good, like, he's a great dramatic actor too. Like he's hilarious with comedy. But dude, watch The Post, Steven Spielberg's The Post. He's in that, dude, and he's got some great dramatic turns in that movie.
Well, a lot of those guys are like that, like Patton Oswalt and David Cross, and a lot of those kind of weird Zach Galifianakis, these great alternative kind of comedians can still pull off amazing dramatic like performances. And I mean I guess more mainstream comedians too. But all in all, I liked the first season. I thought it was cool. I think it'd be interesting to kind of like, I have like a list of things that I think are kind of interesting, like a bullet list of like 4 or 5 things. It's like, this is kind of what I picked up from, like, without going back and rewatching the entire season. Like my brain is like a flour sifter, like sift out the shit that doesn't matter. What are the rocks that left? And these are the kind of things that were left once I was done with it. So I'm definitely excited to get into those, but I don't want to like hog, and because I've already been doing this for like 25 minutes. So it's like, I don't want to take over the podcast, even though the show is totally about me. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to be a podcast Nazi.
Zoheb, you have the easiest job in podcasting. You ask Collin a question, you go get a meal, you eat it.
Literally. That's every episode of Midnight Oil Feature and Bad Crystal, dude. Like I just like let him go sometimes. Like sometimes I turn my camera off here and I'm just like gonna go do my own shit. Maybe I'm working on like an essay that's due in a couple of days or some shit.
I always wonder how you handle your time, because you're such a busy person, but this is clearly it. You found it.
Sometimes I just put my headphones on and like Colin's still talking and I just put my headphones down again.
You found a lab rat.
You record your episodes with
absolutely.
Matt while Colin's still talking.
Yeah. That makes me think of there's something about Mary when Ben Stiller's in the psychiatrist's office and he comes back in from eating a sandwich and he's that's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life, dude.
Oh God, Floyd, hit me with your season 1 thoughts. Kind of like just a high level view of it. Both of you, Carlos and Floyd, did a rewatch of season 1 in preparation for this episode, which I did not ask you to do, but thank you so much for doing that because that is amazing.
Oh, absolutely. I would have never. Yeah. I wouldn't have felt comfortable coming on if I didn't. I think Carlos probably feels the same way.
Yep.
Some very similar thoughts with Collin, and to even also to the point of I'm kind of like that too with TV, especially when you get into the network stuff. I mean, like Blue Bloods and CSI and all. I just cannot watch that stuff. Everybody tells me to. I have trouble. I can't finish that Hannibal, and I know it's good. Just something about it. I don't know. I just can't do it.
My dad is literally downstairs right now watching episodes
of
Hannibal.
It's so good. Guys, it's so good.
He is obsessed.
But for Breaking Bad, I mean, and there's some, of course, there's stuff that's just like next level that's, theatrical quality. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a different, level. And Breaking Bad's one of those. So, it was interesting rewatching this. So, as I said earlier, I started watching this after season 3, and that was around 2010, 11, somewhere around there. So, it's been almost 10 years since I've sat down and watched this, and definitely had a different perspective on it. First of all, as you talked about, the first season is a little bit different in terms of it's a slow burn, but Gilligan does a fantastic job with that foreshadowing. And I was surprised that he came back and did it again. So he does it when he the first episode, you see the pants falling and there's this RV careening through the desert. You know what I mean? And then we kind of go back and forth until we get back to that point. Right. And then he does it again with the explosion. And I really thought that, foreshadowing or showing a little jump ahead or whatever, that's nothing original, but the way that he delivers that, it lets the slow burn go, but also keeps your interest. Like, I know something crazy's coming. You know what I mean? So I thought the way he delivered that was perfect. The other thing that I'll point out, and I think I'm in the minority on this, and by the way, I have listened to the first 2 episodes you guys did, or at least the majority of them. And one of the things that jumped out, and I think the majority of people are not Skylar fans, at least in the first season. When I watched it this time, and I don't know about Carlos, but I know about you other two, I've been married for 17 years, and I know you guys haven't. Okay, so when I watched this, though, and Skylar's reactions to things and everything, I'm like, that's really what a wife would do. I mean, it's kind of like you get these things where it's like, she's such a bitch, but it's like, we're rooting for the bad guy. You know what I mean? I mean, she's 6 or 7 months pregnant. He's hanging out with a meth head, smoking weed, coming in at all hours of the night. Everything she does is validated. You know what I mean? I mean, she is the right. And there's a point in time where Gilligan almost makes her kind of an antagonist just because she's asking him to go get treatment. You know what I mean? It's just like, why didn't she get off his ass? She's trying to save her husband. You know what I mean? So I definitely had a different perspective watching it this time with my experience with marriage and that interaction. And I was just like, this is pretty real, and how a wife would really react in a situation like this. So those things jumped out at me. As we've already talked about, the way it ends and goes into season 2, perfect. And to that point, Zoheb, you said you thanked us for watching it. Everything kind of becomes a job, right? So for me, I was like, man, I got to watch these 7 episodes. I got to do this. And then I got like 3 episodes in, and I was like, why don't I watch this like once a year? You know what I mean? I was like, this is awesome. It's fantastic. But
exactly.
I love, again, just to kind of wrap it up, I love that it is a slow burn, but it's incredibly entertaining and keeps your imagination captured. But yeah, great season to start to kick off a fantastic series.
Absolutely. And it's funny because as we drop the episodes for season 1 week by week on Bad Crystal, you're going to hear just how much Collin and I do shit on Skylar. And look, maybe in hindsight we do shit on her a bit too much, but I mean, look, there is a bit of there's an element of like, you know, we are sometimes joking, but at the same time, Gilligan makes a creative decision to make the bad guy someone who is rational, and that is just such a fantastic perspective on things, Floyd. I'm so glad you actually mentioned that. That's
and
great.
again, I know I'm in the minority. I know she's generally not liked. You know, the character is not liked. You know, but I just had a different take on it this time.
A lot of shit.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, like, Anna Gunn, like, as the show was going along, she copped a lot of shit, like a lot of flack, you know? I remember there being, like, a particular interview where she was just straight up asked, like, hey, like, how do you deal with, like, you know, like, do you get people coming up to you on the street asking you about Breaking Bad and, like, about your character because you're just so not well received? And she's like, I don't think I'm well received. I don't think I'm not well received. I think I'm doing what my character in any situation would do. And that's literally what she's doing. Like, you know, like you 100% hit the nail on the head. Carlos, hit me with your thoughts on season 1.
So I remember people talking about this season like it's awful. It's a slog. Like you got to push through that first season so you can get to season 2. And a lot of the episodes, a lot of the moments that I saw in this season, I was like, wait, this was season 1? This was a good season. Like, what are we talking about?
I had the exact same experience. I had the same exact thoughts.
It may not rise to the level of like, you know, season 4 or something, but it's a perfectly good season of television. I do think if I'm not mistaken, season 1 was one of like, it suffered from the writer's strike. And so some things had to be, there was a writer's strike in, what was that, 08?
Sounds about right, 2008.
Yeah, so I believe some stuff, you know, isn't as clean as Breaking Bad is generally, but it's better than 96% of first seasons of other shows that have ever been. I think Gilligan is he's amazing at that Chekhov's gun kind of thing where it's like, I'm going to show you something in Act 1 and I may not bring it back until Act 17, but you're going to go, yeah, no, it was there. You're absolutely right. They did leave a gas mask in the middle of the desert, and it's not like everything will have a ramification. Every decision they make ripples out. And what really gets fun later on in the show is when those ripples start interacting with each other. And so this season is great at setting up the initial consequences and the initial chain reaction to get into chemistry, like setting that all up so that it's building the house of cards. It's on a stable foundation. So I had similar thoughts to Collin because Collin had all of the thoughts. So I mean, everybody, you have to have similar thoughts when he says every word.
If you just walk in with a shotgun approach and just start blasting, eventually you'll hit everything.
But yeah, I remembered like one of my favorite moments on Breaking Bad is Jesse going to get a job at a bank and thinking he's going for a sales job, and the reveal of the sign, and you just see his head drop. And I thought that was, I assumed that was season 2. Like I just didn't think it was season 1. I was like, wait, this is here? There were so many of those little moments. I was like, this is season 1. What is everyone mad about? It's really good.
But yeah, piggybacking off your thoughts, Carlos, I had the same exact reaction, but I was living it because I was one of those people years ago when when I was recommending people to Breaking Bad. It was post Breaking Bad, after the show had ended. I was one of the people who was like, yeah, you kind of need to get through season 1, but you have to remember, like, I was like 18, maybe 19. Like, you know, like the epic stuff that comes in season 4 and 5 is huge in terms of scale, right? Like it's massive. Like, you know, so for a younger audience, that is a lot more appealing. But like now as I watch it, dude, and I'm pretty sure I say this in the episodes, season 1 is incredible. Yeah. I love season 1 in terms of like just the amount of like work it does setting everything up, setting the people up, setting the tone of the show up, the visual style, the language of the show, like all of that is really, really well, like the foundations are all here. And it's like just the just the small arcs that you get. So I always say that episodes 1, 2, and 3 can be self-contained into like a little mini series, because that's the whole kind of like Emilio and Crazy 8 little arc that you have there. If you were to watch just those first 3 episodes and show those episodes in isolation to someone, then you've got them for life on Breaking Bad. Like, they're not going to want to let go, because that 3-act that 3-episode structure right there is incredible. And then after that, we go into your kind of like gray matters. We open it up to, the Schwartzes, like we give Walt a bit more of a motivation going forward. And then we finally close out with Tuco, who's an insane person. So yeah, like when people say season 1 is, it's slow, it's the one that you kind of really got to get through. Now, dude, I wholly disagree. Like I wholly disagree, because this is a 5-season show, and this show does not work where one of those seasons is kind of skipped over, or like, looked beyond. Like, it's fantastic. Oh god, can you tell I love this show? Can you tell I love this show?
Let me ask you guys this, kind of along those lines. Let me ask the questions kind of along those lines. You guys might know. Do you guys know, what was it originally? Just, I mean, were they just greenlit for 7 episodes? When did they know that there was going to be a second season? Do you guys know?
I've heard this. I vaguely know. I remember that they wanted to kill Jesse in either season 1 or episode 1,
right.
Something like that. What was it, Carlos? You're nodding. Because I feel like I know this.
Yeah, I believe he was supposed to die in season 1. I don't know if he was supposed to die by the end of the first episode, but they liked that chemistry so much between them. They're like, no, you got to keep Jesse, because he's such a constant source of conflict for Walt. But I don't know about, like, I don't know that they knew that there were future seasons coming.
Interesting. I just wondered if that changed the arc or anything.
Doing some research here, as we like to do. Yeah, I double feature on the episode because we don't do pre-planning. So the network ordered 9 episodes for the first season, but the 07-08 Writers Guild of America strike limited the production to 7 episodes.
There you go.
Within the original 9-episode arc, he had planned to kill off Jesse or Hank as a ballsy moment to end the season on.
Hank, that was the one that I had heard.
Okay, I'd never heard of Hank dying that early on, because honestly, that was like, when I saw that Hank was a DEA agent, I was like, okay, so we have the main sort of conflict throughout the entire series. Right. Like, you can kind of like grease that wheel as much as you want.
Well, that guy's a perfect example of somebody that'll probably never have a role that is that's that big, but I mean, the job he did in that role is absolutely amazing. I mean, that Hank character is, he's real. First of all, I know guys like that. You know what I mean? And then on the other side of it, exactly, he is the tension. The family tension and stuff. I can't imagine the show without him or a character like that.
Hank is one of my favorite characters of all time. Just the amount of nuance that Dean Norris is able to put in that performance, but like just how well it's written, like just how real it is. You're 100%. 100% correct, Floyd. We'll get to the characters in a sec. Let me just tell you how I came about this show. So before this, I had only seen 2 shows from start to finish. And that was Prison Break from start to finish. I guess it's still going, but no, it's not. It's not. It's like they released like a season 5 like 5 years later or some shit. But like I mean, look, season 1 is all you need to see of that show. That's it. Like, you don't need to go beyond season 1. And the other show that I saw start to finish was Lost. Lost was a game changer in terms of like TV for me, because man, like talk about like weekly conversations that you'd have with your friends every episode, right? I mean, every episode ended with a cliffhanger. Every episode was just like, where are they going with this? Turns out even Damon Lindelof and whatever had no idea where they were going with this. But that didn't stop like a conversation from being had, right? So like it was like, and it was network TV too. So it's like 23 or 24 episodes a season, which is exhausting if you go back and watch something like that now. These are like 40-minute episodes that are like times 22, and that's one season. which is a lot, which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
But it also Lost employed like a narrative structure that was kind of interesting because it's like, let's strand these guys on an island and have like this big mystery on this island, but at the same time, let's include flashbacks every episode and, you know, give you kind of like backstory about that. So like when I was introduced to Breaking Bad, especially season 2 of Breaking Bad season 2, and this is not a spoiler for you, Colin, it's going to do more narrative structure gymnastics. Like, you know, it's not going to be as linear as season 1 was. It's going to be I would
hope so, because there's so much, like in the first, I don't remember what episode it was, but when we meet Elliot and, you know, the colleagues from Grey Matter, and I was like, so what the fuck happened there? Like I can kind of fill in the breaks that the blanks that either Walter got like fucked out of something or he declined it. I was like, but I want to know what happened. And I was left like, dude, why is Walter not over here getting assigned Eric Clapton guitar? Like, what the hell is going on? You know, I was like, where was the chemistry that led to this, you know, versus that?
Right, absolutely, and you will get that answer, but not as soon as you think. So I don't want you to clench your fists for so long. You know, like I gotta try and like let you know when things are coming, but in a very subtle way, but not really, so you don't get disappointed.
Season 2, interesting that you say that. Season 2 was the last season that they had a very detailed outline for everything, including the ending. So season 3, 4, and 5, they were off the cuff. They were just writing. You know what I mean? But season 1 and 2, they had outlined.
That's interesting because I was about to like drill down on that because I saw Vince Gilligan live. I don't think I've talked about this in any of the 7 episodes.
No.
So Vince Gilligan came to do a talk after Breaking Bad had finished here in Sydney for the Sydney Film Festival, you know, or it was like the Writers Festival or something like that, some festival. And we went to Town Hall, a friend and I, and that's actually where I got this book that I use on each episode. It's called Wanna Cook. It's really good. It breaks down every episode. Basically, I'm not having to do any research. It's done already for me. So thank you. Thank you, Goffey and Kuntz. But no, honestly, like this was a fantastic conversation. He's literally just sitting there with like a host, and the host is asking him a bunch of questions after the show's ended. But like one of the questions was, what does the writer's room look like? Like, how do you guys come up with not only the structure, but like how to get different characters out of different situations? And the answer was so interesting because he's like, the way we get characters out of different situations is pretty much off the cuff. It's most of the time it's not even planned. Most of the time it's like, okay, we get them into the situation, we write ourselves into a corner, and then we sit down, we like coffee, and we just like bang it out, dude. Like, you know, he said the best thing that you can do for a writer is to write yourself into the corner. And I was like, that's amazing, because that is Breaking Bad. Like, you know, there's so many times when these characters would get themselves into a corner. More so in Better Call Saul. Like, Better Call Saul has so many situations where those characters are written into a corner, and it's just like, how the hell are they going to be able to get out of this situation? And it's just so practically well done, so logically thought out, that it's just absolutely... It feels like pre-planned. Like, you know, it feels very intricately thought out. Again, it feels like a Nolan film.
It's so funny you said that, because I was actually I was just on YouTube just kind of searching around, and Robert Downey Jr. was on Joe Rogan, and I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, I don't regularly watch Joe Rogan, but he has a lot of really cool guests on and stuff. And it was, you know, he was talking about being behind the scenes and like, why do I have to wear this fucking suit if it's just going to be CGI and blah blah blah, and like some funny stuff. And he was, you know, and Rogan started talking about yeah, right. Yeah. Have you ever done DMT? He was, and Robert Downey Jr. is like, yes, I have. No, but basically Rogan was talking about Professor Hulk, Smart Hulk, And he was like, because Robert Downey Jr. is like, once they do that, they can't just pull the pin and backpedal and turn him back into, they can, but it'll just be terrible writing. He's like, so I asked the Russo brothers, like, why do you do that? He's like, we love writing ourselves in a corner. We love putting ourselves, because like, it's also like when you sit down to face a blank page of like, I mean, if you're writing shorter stories or screenwriting or music or a play or whatever, just the fact that like it can be anything is almost daunting and like horrifying. It's like, this could be anything, but it's nothing right now. Like there's something about limiting your ramifications that I actually really like, and be like, there's only so many ways that I can go with this. It actually kind of helps. Like when I do anything creative, I like that of like only having certain routes, to go to.
Well, not only that, but it limits the chances of there being like an ex machina. Like, it limits the chances of there being like that just so happens to be there.
Oh, here's the potion that turns him back into regular Hulk,
Right, totally. Let's talk about the characters and their sort of arc this season, because I know we are at season 1, so it's tough to talk about arcs and like where characters are going to end up. We already started talking about Hank, so let's just like kind of like get into it. Okay, Colin, talk to me about what you thought of Hank's introduction, and like he's not fully hot on the trails of Walt yet, or if he's ever going to be, but it's Carlos is looking at me like, fuck you, man.
You might as well be in a laser grid. Just like,
that's been projected though, right? I mean, we know.
It has. Like he's gone to the school, right? Like he's checked the inventory. Like he's asked him. He's like, oh, was basically, like, what does he say when he's just like, was it you, like, or some shit like that? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, because like in that episode, I was like, oh yeah, my mom was like, I feel like I feel like Hank's kind of like actually nudging to Walt that it's actually might be him.
I think there's something interesting about like, because I'm actually reading like The Outsider, the Stephen King novel right now, and I'm rewatching the TV show.
Of course,
that I didn't actually finish. But there's something interesting.
We got a Nolan reference and a Stephen King reference in about 2 minutes.
It's not a Midnight Oil Feature episode. It's not a Midnight Oil Feature episode.
No. But Ben Mendelsohn as Ralph Anderson in The Outsider is like, I know where this is going to lead, but as a detective, I have to do this anyway. It doesn't matter. He's like, it's like being someone's lawyer and not bothering to ask, did you do this? Like at some point you have to ask the logical question. Like if you don't, even if you pursue something like, yes, I know if I do the math and 2 + 2 = 4, I know that. But at the same time, I still need to do the due diligence and put the elbow work in and do what I need to do. So I think that's what's interesting about Hank, is seeing Hank kind of, because I said that like first or second episode, I called that shit. I was like, no one's going to notice that Walt just stole all of this shit from the school. And you were like,
does not compute.
Yeah. And then with the gas mask, I was like, there's no reason why we would cut back to that little girl with the gas mask if this is not going to be something later. Like, unless it's just a funny moment of her holding the mask, like, haha, look, it's a kid playing with a meth mask, is actually kind of like dark humor kind of thing.
Well, if they just while we're there, if they had left that, like, it would be this moment of like consequence, right? Like, so. Walt and Jesse's actions have a much, much bigger effect than what they're actually thinking about. Like, like that's right. If they had left it just at that, then that's what that would be, I think.
Yeah, the ripple effect is up, and that's one of the things that actually I kind of wrote down, was that the show is not about the selling meth and the distribution. We don't see the street level guys selling meth. Like, we don't go, that's not what the show is about. That's not what we're interested in. We're interested about what I'm interested in, and what I think the show is kind of hitting on are the moral and ethical and personal ramifications, the ripple effects of what is happening, the consequences and the fallout of it. Like, not so much, I don't mind, a Breaking Bad universe where like there's 6 different anthology stories of people who have smoked, their crystal meth and then go do whatever, like, okay, that would be kind of funny, like a Breaking Bad universe, whatever. But I don't really, that's not really why I like the show. So I think there's something interesting about with Hank, with not only seeing Hank, especially in the first season, kind of being like very fatherly to Walt Jr., where there's moments where you're like, that should be Walt, that should not be Hank.
I absolutely loved that scene. I forgot about it. I love that when he said, not cool, you should have called your dad.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
It made him human. It made him human. You know what I mean? He is not just an asshole.
Right. Well, and it's very, being from the South, like I know a lot of guys that are, and I think people from North, East, West, whatever, like blah, blah, but I know in the South, a lot of guys that are like that are very macho kind of.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, like Hank as a dad would be like, dude, if I were Walt, this would piss me off. And it's like, God, that's really cool. That empathy, given toward, because he doesn't hate Walt. There's no animosity there, but you can tell that Walt feels uncomfortable around Hank sometimes. I think he's very like, cool. Like I work at a car wash and I'm a teacher and this guy's taking down like meth houses, like that's kind of, it's an interesting thing of.
Well, were it not for their marriage, these two would never hang out.
No.
These two would never like share a coffee or like have a conversation. If they weren't bound by blood by their sisters, by their wives, then these two would never have crossed paths ever.
Right. I think it's a great moment in the birthday party scene where Walt Jr. has the gun and he's like, Dad, take a look at this. And he feels so comfortable with it. And then Walt Sr. picks it up and he's like, it's kind of heavy. And it's like, you can see he's so uncomfortable with it. So I don't know. I think it's interesting seeing like the ramifications so far in the first season have been, you've killed somebody, you've had to dissolve a body, like you've seen people murdered, you've blown up a building, like all this crazy stuff. I can't imagine once you throw a personal family member who's also a DEA agent into that ripple of cause and effect, like, oh my God, like I can't imagine. That's like a hurricane on top of a twister. Like that's just that's an unstoppable force and an unmovable object. It's two crazy variables in the same equation together. So that I think his character progression, his arc, without knowing anything, with only knowing one season of this is I mean, obviously going to get crazier, but like to the full extent and the dirty details is what I'm really interested in.
Just while we're here, let's also tie Marie into this as well, because they're often interconnected. So as we kind of like go around the room, let's talk about Hank and Marie together as well. Because Colin, I know you have some strong opinions on Marie.
Yeah, she's a piece of shit. Anybody else? Go ahead. No, I'm just kidding. No, I there actually are badass moments where, Walter is like, I am choosing not to have treatment. And, I think you can kind of look at that either way. I think to each their own. People are going to have different opinions. Some people are like, no, you got to fight that to the bitter end. Some people are going to say, that's your choice. At the end of the day, whatever is your cup of tea is your cup of tea. But I like the fact that Marie at least took the time to, I thought about this after we recorded the episode, and if I don't say it now, it's going to piss me off. The first season of Walking Dead who's the guy who drives the RV, the older guy? He's in all of Frank Darabont's stuff. Like
I know who you're talking.
Dale,
I know who you're talking about. He's
Southern name X.
Yeah, something like that. Like
Dale or Vern or Jimbo.
Yes.
I don't remember.
I can't remember what. That's all I remember.
Yeah. There's a guy who, I mean, he has like 10 lines in the whole first season, but he gets bit and they're trying to figure out what to do with him. They're like, we're just going to shoot him in the head and blah, blah, blah. And Dale's like, well, why don't we shoot him and leave him somewhere? And, Andrew Lincoln's like, no, absolutely not. We're not going to do that. And then later on, he's like, you kind of jumped on me and cut me off, but really I was going to ask, why didn't we just ask him what he wanted to do? And I was like, that's awesome. I actually really, of all the shit that Marie is just such a shitbag for in the whole first season of being judgy and kind of letting her sister almost take the fall for her kleptomania, but at the same time, all of it, I mean, it's big stuff, but it's I guess to me it's smaller in the way of let this guy choose how he wants to live or how he wants to die. That at least should be his choice, and I really dig that. And I love Skyler's reaction of getting pissed when she doesn't validate the whole reason why she has this like world's worst intervention. But that's the one redeeming moment for Marie, I think, in the first season. But for the most part, she's like, I don't know. She looks like she hasn't been fucked since Carter was president. She just has this horrible, I don't know. I just like characters like that just really get. I have family members like that, and it just like 10 times worse. It's like bamboo under my fingernails. I'm like, oh, I know you. Oh God.
Jeffrey DeMunn, by the way.
Jeffrey DeMunn. Oh, yeah. He's in all of Darabont stuff. He's in like Shawshank.
Yeah.
He's
He's also like related to you, Colin. I'm saying he voices a bunch of Stephen King audiobooks.
Oh shit, that's awesome. That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
Nice. Floyd, hit me with your on your thoughts about Hank and Marie this season. And Carlos, I promise for the next character we'll go the other way because you keep having to clean up Colin's shit, and you're just like, yeah, I agree with Colin because he's said everything about everything ever.
Just he like said all the words. There's nothing else I can possibly say that has not been said.
A B C D E F G H. No,
I really don't have much more to say about Hank. I've already kind of interjected. I'm saying even my interjections a couple times. I mean, I think he's a real person. I think he's a great hashed out character. I love his arc through the whole series. I will say that. With Marie, the only thing I will say about Marie, and I don't know what it says about me, I find her smoking hot.
Oh no, I didn't say she wasn't hot.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I do like that little spur that they put in there with her being, a klepto or what have you.
Yeah. That really the klepto element of the show really interests me because I don't know what Gilligan's trying to say there. Like, I don't really know. Like, and like you'll hear me kind of like struggle a little bit over the 7 episodes of season 1 where she is carrying like out those activities, and I'm just like, I don't really know what he's trying to say here about the character. Like, I mean, like, I know what he's trying to say about the character. She's unstable, whatever. Maybe she needs a little bit of excitement because she's so comfortable with her life. She's got a DEA husband. She's got a very nice house. Her existence is very, plain Jane, right? So maybe it's a little bit of like, I want to live life on the edge.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with him being a DEA agent. I guess I would have to ask Gilligan, but I don't think that she was doing that prior. I don't think she did that as a teenager or something. You know what I mean? I think this is like an acting out thing. And knowing, and it's exciting, and then her husband's a cop, and I think it has something to do with all that.
Yeah.
It could be that. Yeah, that's definitely an element. Carlos, hit me.
Okay, so the thing about Hank, he is my favorite character arc of the entire series. But what I love about Hank that I think doesn't get enough play is that he's boisterous and he's always cracking jokes, and they're sometimes not very tactful jokes. But he's an amazing cop. He's very good at what he does. And so it sets up that even though he's kind of buffoonish, you see in season 1, like he would make a formidable opponent for Walt because he is very good at what he does. And so in that conflict of, how does this great cop not see that his brother-in-law is clearly the guy doing this? Like, the stuff is missing from his brother-in-law's high school and his brother-in-law's, science lab. How does he not see this? And it's that kind of conflict for season 1, and spoilers, a lot of the rest of the series is going to be like, Hank, and how good a cop he is, and when will this finally catch up? And then for their, I don't understand the kleptomania storyline. I don't know if that was something that they wanted to get back to later, and like just kind of maybe we're like, leave it, just like let it die, because it does seem like she wants excitement from her life, but her husband is a DEA agent. Like, every day he leaves, he may not come back, and we see him at work, and it's very dangerous. So I would feel like she's got a lot of excitement going on in her, a lot of stress, at least in her life. So I don't understand why she feels the need to act out in this way. Like, what's the inciting incident? Is she trying to control something? Or like if she was having trouble having a kid or something like that, that would be like, okay, so this is the one thing I can control, is I can steal and no one can catch me. I'm very good at it. And, I don't know where that was going. But I haven't binged season 2 in a while, so maybe if you have me back, I will be like, oh, that was totally where that was going.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, well, Hank intrigues me as a character because if someone else was writing this show, Hank would only be a a tough looking jock character. Like, like that's all he would be. Just also to add to what you were saying, Carlos, he's a fantastic cop. I think we highlighted in the first episode where, when him and his tech team are raiding Emilio's lab, he waits for the bus to pass, like the school bus to pass before they make the move. And just like for him to know the bus schedules, like, and things like that, it's just like, it's fantastic. Like, it's just the small things that make Hank, But my favorite element of Hank is what only a writer like Vince Gilligan would bring to him, and that's the softness of him. Like, he's very boisterous, he's very hard, he's got this tough exterior, but then he's also got moments of like, your dad wouldn't like me calling me. Like, he's got those moments of like vulnerability as well. And as the show goes on, we see more of the vulnerability of Hank. Like, that's his arc. Like, like we're introduced to him as this tough cop, who's like literally the first time we meet him, he's talking himself up about an arrest on TV. Like, they're watching an arrest that he made. And he's like talking it up. But as the show goes on, we see that he is not this person, that this is a facade that he wants to just try and keep up. Like, it's just like this, it's this tough exterior that he's just trying to put on, but also trying to convince himself that he is. Like,
as with a lot of guys who are like that, honestly. There's a lot of guys who are like, I went to high school with that guy and he was a jerk. And I was like, yeah, but I think if you would have actually gotten to know that guy 10 years later, you're like, wow, like I've had incidents like that where like I went to high school with this dude, you were a dick and you were kind of a, machismo jock kind of jerk. And then 10 years later, I work with you in the same place. I'm like, that guy's cool as hell. And I was like, it was just this weird adolescent facade, like kind of thing. So no, I know exactly what you mean by that. I think that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, that's all I do here. I make good points. So
yeah, he's like, absolutely, yeah. Thank you. I'm going to pat myself on the back here. Don't break your neck sucking your own cock there.
But like, also, I think Marie is the perfect mirror to that. Like, Marie is just someone who is dialed into her own world. Like, she's someone that really kind of like wants to get what she wants. And not really considering other people's reactions to those things. Like, like, hey, I'm going to steal this tiara and give it to Skylar as a present. And that'll be the end of that. Like, like she's not going to ask questions about this. She's not going to return it. That's just going to be the end of the story. Like, like that. Like, she thinks very one-dimensionally. Like, she thinks very simplistically like that. And I'm just like, that's really interesting to have someone like that as this guy's wife. My favorite scene of Marie, hands down, in this season is the talking pillow scene, like you, Colin. Just that moment of like, well, what does this guy want? Like, like she is a nurse, she's in the medical sphere, whatever, and she knows what a patient like Walt would be thinking. Like, everyone else out here is making decisions for me on behalf of me. Like I'm barely like I'm not even sitting here. And Marie just comes in with this like great moment of like, what do you want? And then Skylar gets pissed, right? Skylar's like, why aren't you taking my side? And we're gonna get to Skylar next.
Well, by the way, you said talking pillow, and I just thought, when is there a scene where it's like, hello, Walter, what are you doing? Like, I just pictured just like animated. I was like, wait, whoa, when is that? And I was like, oh, wait, no, never mind.
The talking pillow.
Yeah, I was like, I fucking watched the wrong thing.
let's get to Skylar and Walt Jr. next. So we're gonna go Skylar, Walt Jr., and then we're going to go Jesse, and we'll close it off with Walt. We've pretty much said so much about Walt already. Like, there's not really too much else to say about Walt.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no other real sort of, like, main character in Season 1 that has an arc that we can talk about. Yeah, what?
I have one thing, just food for thought while we go around. One question that I wanted to ask, because like you said, we talked so much about Walt. At what point to each of you specifically was Walter's point of like, now you have put both feet into Heisenberg? Like, at what point were you, because I think even in the first season, you could say, oh, it's this scene. And I think that a lot of people might say that, but I kind of have a couple of different, I kind of have 2 or 3 moments in the first season. I was like, dude, you are, maybe you don't have the hat and maybe you don't have the name, but you are motherfucking Heisenberg right now. Like that. So I just wanted to put that in the back of the thought as we go around talking about Skyler and Walt Jr.
That is a good point, because that is a hotly debated topic everywhere, right? Like, the where is the turning point? Where is the birth of Heisenberg?
Right.
And I know Vince Gilligan's answer. Vince Gilligan's answer is somewhere in season 2. I'm not going to reveal it where, but he definitely has.
I think I know where.
Yeah, he definitely has a moment where for him he turns into Heisenberg. It's the point of no return. I've literally seen, like, he gave that answer where, like, I saw him out of his own mouth give that answer. So I got it straight from the source. But no, let's talk about Skylar and Walt Jr. Kind of like the peripherals, the ones who are experiencing the fallout of Walt getting involved in, quote, marijuana and Jesse Pinkman. Carlos, talk to me.
I have always loved Skylar. I don't understand. Like, I don't get I've never understood the backlash, including from my wife, who hated Skylar when the show was on. I was like, "What are you talking? You're a wife. How do you not understand her? Like, of all the characters."
She's like, "I'm a strong, independent woman, Carlos. I'm not reduced to just being your wife."
I mean, she roots for the bad guy famously in Breaking Bad, but I think Skylar is a great character. It's so interesting to watch this show knowing where it's going and knowing like the arcs that are coming, but just in season 1, just on its own merits, I think she is doing such a good job of, like, I'm just trying to hold everything together, and my husband is maybe losing his mind, and I've got a baby on the way, and I've got a special needs son, and my sister's kind of, the most annoying person on the planet. Like, she's just trying to hold this together, and I just really, I feel for her throughout this season because I'm on her side for so many of these arguments. And then Walt. Well, you want me to just talk about Skylar or Walt Jr. as well?
Yeah, no, like, yeah, those two are, yeah, like, that's, yeah, we're there.
So yeah, okay. Walt Jr. I feel like he's a really great tool narratively to just be like, whatever he says is going to have the most weight to Walter. So, like, if everyone else is giving their opinions, it's, Walt will be annoyed, or maybe he'll take it to heart or angry. And then Walt Jr. is just like, "You're being a pussy right now." And it's like, oh shit, that's my son. And he's not even looking at me with any kind of respect right now. And so that pushes Walt, I think, to make a lot of personal decisions that he didn't want to make. And like going and, taking treatment for his cancer, that had a lot to do with Walt Jr. being like, well, then why don't you just die now? And like that kills, it stings. And the moment where Walt Jr. is trying on the jeans in the changing room, and his parents kind of, they have to help him. Man, like, I have a son, I have a daughter. Like, that would kill me to watch my kids getting made fun of. Like, even now at ages like 9 and 6, let alone at like whatever 16, that would destroy me. So like, I really felt in that moment, like, in a way that I was not capable of the first time I saw those episodes. I love Walt Jr. as a character. I think he's got this ability to get to Walt Sr., and he brings out a different quality in all of the other main family members because they're all adults interacting with each other. But with him, he's not a baby. He is a child, but he's not an infant. And so their interactions with him have to be more adult than they would be with a kid, but also not as rude as they would be with each other, or they always have to kind of respect him because he's a kid. And like, when he's in the room, they will knock Hank for using profanity, but he can also be in the room for the intervention about his dad's cancer. I think Walt Jr. is a really interesting chess piece that they set up for this show, both in giving him a son that is of that age, like that age range, but also giving him because he's got special needs, he's going to be a more expensive burden on Skylar if Walt should die without leaving them any money. Like, it adds more, it's like one more, dumbbell to put on top of the weight that she's got to carry. So I really love that family dynamic.
Skylar, talked quite a bit about Skylar as well. Again, I love it, the fact that she seems like a real wife. And you know, that's the premise of the whole show, right? Is that we're not watching a shoot 'em up, bang 'em up. We're not even really watching that much of a drug thing. We're watching character development. You know what I mean? And that's what makes it special. The thing with Walt that I really like is that Gilligan never has that scene where Skylar pushes Walt Sr. into a corner and says, you know what? You know how many things that kid's been through. Do you know what his life's? You know what I mean? They don't even acknowledge it. And the only time it's really acknowledged that much is in the dressing room scene, and then when he's with his friends, which that's what teenage boys do, right? They fuck with each other about whatever's wrong with them. You know what I mean? So the idea that he isn't presented from the point of the actor himself and the point of the character, he's never presented as you know, overly, you know, having a problem being able to, you know, traverse the world with this ailment that he has. You know what I mean? That's really never brought. He's treated like a real character and not a gimmick in the show that's used. You know, that ailment is used in some way as a storyline or anything like that. That's the part I really enjoy about that. And then just as Carlos said, I absolutely love that line when he's like, "Why don't you just fucking die?" You know what I mean? Just like, if you're giving up, then I'm going to give up on you too. You know, so that's my take on this.
Absolutely. Colin. Well, I mean, like, I know your thoughts about Skylar, and it's not good.
We all know your thoughts about Skylar, Collin.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is, like, I like Anna Gunn's portrayal of it. Like, I think that's interesting because as someone who was single for a very long time and has no children, you know, I was pretty much like not in a committed relationship until I was like 25. Is it? I'm very much so like, I like me and my things and don't care about, you know, it's like, all, you know, all this I am me and myself and I.
That's where I am right now, dude. I'm 26 years old.
That's the interesting thing. So I think I definitely understand it from seeing a parent who was like terminally ill and did eventually pass away. Like I completely understand that, but from the outside, from like third person, not first person view. So I think it's interesting hearing Floyd's take, and it makes me like Skylar a little bit more. I don't know if I question her motive. Her motives 90% of problems are not what you said, it's how you said it. And I think that's the majority of my problem with Skylar is that she has this very, you know, again, take a goddamn minute to just ask Walter what he wants. And like, I can't stand that, man. It's like the kid in the room whose parents are just planning, like, you're going to go to this school and then you're going to go to this college and then you're going to do this. And it's like, dude, that kid eventually fucking snaps because there's so much pressure and there's no choice in that. And I think that's what drives me crazy is that as a character, like I know people don't respond to her very well and probably responded to Marie even worse. But then when that choice was given, that kind of switched. We're like, I think a lot of people, including myself, were like, dude, hats off to Marie to actually give this guy a minute to like breathe. And I was like, that's one of my biggest things about the show is I felt almost claustrophobic because I was like, why do I feel like panicky as I'm watching the first season? I was like, because I feel like I have no choice. And I was like, oh my God, that's because Walter doesn't have a choice. No, I'm fucking, you know, parallels and shit, and it's driving me crazy. But that's the thing that I like.
When we're introduced to those characters, I mean, you know, to put it bluntly, Walter's pussy whipped, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and he's a guy who has lived life. Like, and this is one of the points that I wrote down is he's a guy who has let life just happen to him. He has never actually, you know, it's like dodging the punches instead of stopping for 1 second and just throwing one, you know, and it's like you're always on the defensive. So eventually you just snap and you have to go into some kind of like offense. So I think that's what's interesting. And I think that Skylar is kind of almost like I don't want to say a medium for that, but I think that there comes a point where no, what she's doing, and I think that what she's doing is not bad and you can relate to it, but it's the way that it's coming across is what I have a problem with. And I think it's really interesting about Walt Jr., what Floyd said about them not using him as like, you know, oh, Walt Jr. fell down the well and Lassie's here to tell us we're Walt Jr., you know, like that kind of shit. That's annoying. That's like a Walton's episode. But also seeing, Walt Jr. where it's like the spear in the side. Like you can do all this stuff to try to affect him and none of it will affect him and it really won't get him. But Walt Jr. being like, dude, you just have given up. And if you've given up on life, like you have given up on me, like you have given up on everything. And I think that to see a guy who is willing to murder and break the law and cook meth and face years in prison and stare death in the face to be affected by your only living child so far, that has been like, you're giving up on me. Like that is like, everything else is like a pellet bomb or a pellet gun compared to a nuclear bomb. So to see him kind of deflect everything else, and then this one thing is like, oh, this is like your kryptonite. I thought that was really interesting. I didn't really think about that until one of you guys, where you guys kind of both brought that up. And I had always I knew it was a big scene in that moment, but I was so distracted by the thing of Walt, obviously as someone who's like doesn't have any children and probably won't. My thing was more or less of not giving Walt the chance to control what he wants to do. So seeing Walt Jr. actually be like, why don't you just give up? And it was like, yeah, because if you're actually worried about your family, why are you giving up on this like right now? Like, I understand your choice is important, but at the same time, you're making it's a paradox of like, so you won't get treatment, you'll just die of the cancer because of what it'll do to you, but you'll cook and sell meth to defend that family, but you won't, go through this for them. And I was like, that's kind of, it's an interesting paradox, because it's like, you're not the one worth the cancer. How do you make that call? Are you judging someone for doing that? Like, there's a lot of really cool meat on the bone there that I could just, good Lord, all the words. But I think that's really what I took away from Walt Jr. And I like that character. Especially, I like him actually, like I said, doing stuff with his friends where it's not just like, like Corey Haim in Silver Bullet, this kid who just sits in a wheelchair the whole time and that's his whole thing. And it's like, no, this kid's out there trying to get fucking hammered at a convenience store. Like, yeah. Dude, that's awesome. I was like, that's cool. I actually really dug that a lot. And I think I'll like Skylar as the show goes on, because I actually know a little bit of of where her character goes. I do have a little bit of knowledge with that. So I think I'll actually gradually grow to like her more. But I think there's also like, I'll like her this much more, this little bitty bit, but I'll probably hate her that much more.
It's interesting. I'm really keen to see how this plays out, actually.
Oh, and Anna Gunn is hot as hell, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
To what you said too, though, Colin, about that, when you said Walter never like takes a minute to kind of punch back, when he does, though, in that room, when he's like, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
And crawl out of my ass. Yes. That's great.
That's so good.
Just take a step back and crawl up out of my ass.
It's so good.
Also, Colin found two other people who understood his Silver Bullet reference, because I didn't.
Yeah.
So,
oh really?
Yeah, I've never seen Silver Bullet, so there you go. I mean, like,
that's a great little quick read too.
All I know,
it's like almost like a comic book. That's a great little quick read.
It's got
That's
Gary
good.
Busey in it, right? Is that it? Is that got?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's all I know. Walt Jr. is interesting to me because he is like kind of like a living reminder to Walt that it's like, what's the point? Like, why am I doing this? Like, like, why am I busting my ass to cook meth and potentially risk jail and imprisonment or even death to leave this money behind when I'm going to leave this world with a son who hates me? Like, like what's the world? Like, what's the goddamn point? So, like, it's kind of like a Greek tragedy in that way. Like, it's just like, why do this? Why go to this amount of like length? Like, why not just enjoy life? Why not just enjoy the time that I have left with the people that I love, and make them like do things for them that make them love me, rather than do things that result in them pushing me away or resenting me. Like, like all of that really interests me, because it's just it's tragic. Honestly, it's just tragic. And that's the only word that I can think of when I talk about Walt Jr. And like, we'll get to other things that Walt Jr. does to help support Walt or push away Walt and end up resenting Walt, and how his relationship with Skylar changes. So yeah, man, like Junior is a character that really didn't interest me the first time I watched this. Like, I was like, oh, he's just a kid. Like, he's just kind of like caught in the middle of all this, kind of like how a child would get caught in the middle of divorce kind of thing. So yeah. Also, Skylar is also a character that took me quite a while to come around on. I'm hearing a lot of clicking. I don't know.
What is that?
Fucking Colin.
that is my volume, because I was like, dude, It sounds like there was an animal crying in the background, and I was like, "Oh, it's my dog having a dog dream." I think.
You son of a bitch!
Scared the shit out of me. I was like, "My child!"
And I can see Floyd reacting to it, and I can see Carlos reacting to it. And all I could see, I couldn't see Collin reacting to it. And I was just like, all right.
I was like, Collin Jr.
Right. Skylar. As I watched this the first time around, again, I hated Skylar, and I was like 17 or 18 when I first saw this, so I was like well within my age limits to hate a character like that, because I don't understand her. At that age, I don't understand a character like that. I have no real world experience to stand in her shoes and look at the way things that she does. I just don't. But looking at her now, she's, married to this guy who's, like you said, Carlos, I think before we kicked off the podcast, where this guy's coming home at all hours of the night. He's embroiled with a meth addict or a meth dealer or a meth cooker or Captain Cook, right? She goes over to Captain Cook's house and looks at who this guy is and starts putting it together. It's just like, oh my God, I don't want my husband to hang around with this guy. That is a decision that she makes on Walt's part, but that is a decision any wife will make on their husband's part. And Collin, I totally agree with the lack of control. But the only element that I agree on about that is the part where she doesn't ask Walt what he wants about his treatment. I don't agree. I don't agree with the part where she makes the decision on Walt's behalf to not hang out with Jesse Pinkman. Because that is natural to me. A wife will make a decision like that on Walt's part. Does that make sense? That was very convoluted.
That I understand. That I can understand of stay away because my husband is just going through some weird shit right now, and there is nothing good that can come of this. Him hanging out with you, him just buying weed from you and going home is one thing, but being gone all hours of the night and hanging out with you and stuff, no good can come of this. It's not like this will be a profitable business venture. There's nothing good that's gonna, look at the guys that Walt's friends with, like Elliot. Look at all those unbelievably successful, smart people, and then you're hanging out with a kid in Jinko jeans named Captain Cook, and it's like, yeah, fuck off with get this kid out.
With a very strange website.
Yeah, but and the thing is seeing her, but I think it also, that scene in particular really shows Walt and Skylar's naivety to the whole thing of Walter thinks that I'll just show up and I'll take one meth, please, and buy the meth and go on and that'll be it. And Skylar in the same way of I'll just show up, 7 months pregnant and just tell this guy to fuck off. And he's like, lady, you have no idea what you are fucking with. That is dangerous, man. And it's that level of naivety that of course, someone who's never, what did she say? She smoked pot in college, and that's really about it. So I think, or it might've been Marie. I can't remember which one of them said that, but
both of them.
Both of them. Okay.
Yeah.
Seeing that later on where, she just shows up to this guy's house really shows that you're either brave or you're stupid. And it's and I know that you're not a stupid character. I think it might be a little bit of both.
I think it's neither, Collin. I think it's neither. I think it's emotional. You know what I mean? I think her emotions have taken over to the point where she isn't even considering the ramifications of it. She's saving her husband or whatever. You know what I mean? That's
Sure.
how I take it.
Okay, that makes sense. I kind of took it as both I'm pissed. I want to protect my husband, and at the same time, who the fuck are you? I have a feeling of when she's around Jesse, there is this kind of looking down through your nose kind of thing. There is this kind of
Totally.
who are you?
Absolutely.
I don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
There's this kind of.
She says, "Don't touch me," right? She's like, "Don't you touch me?"
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
that's the. I guess that it's little ticks like that really pissed me off about her to the point where I'm like, you showed up to my house. Who the fuck are you? But I like what Floyd said, where it's almost like a knee jerk kind of reaction of just not thinking about the long term ramifications of what you might be doing.
Absolutely. And as we start to wrap up our little wrap up here, we're going to close with our last two characters, but I mean the two characters that make this show tick, and that's Walt and Jesse. We're going to tie them together because we've pretty much talked about Walt already. So let's talk about Walt and Jesse. Let's talk about their, for lack of a better term, chemistry, pun. And talk about how, because Collin, I know you're seeing the manipulation elements already at play. Like, I know that you're seeing, that Walt is manipulating Jesse at so many points in this season and so many more to come. So I know you're already familiar with that. So, Carlos and Floyd, that, like, I'm sure that Collin is well aware that, that is Walt's character, and it is in Walt's character to be manipulating someone as malleable as Jesse, especially at this point in season 1 when Jesse is not very educated, right? Like, he's very green. He's very new to all of this, much to Walt's, I guess, assumption, like, because Walt comes into this thinking that Jesse knows all about drugs and the streets,
right,
and street smarts, and that is not the case. But let's get to Floyd. Let's kick off with you. Let's get to Walt and Jesse's chemistry, the manipulation that's at play, and how you think Jesse's arc in season 1 plays out.
Maybe a little bit of a controversial take. I do not think Aaron Paul's a great actor. I can, and I do this thing where when I, kind of critique these, like, this is my thing. I can tell he's acting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's also a thought I had when I was watching it this time where there's people in my life that I can tell are acting as well. You know what I mean? They aren't quite being themselves. So maybe that, if you work that angle, it probably works a little better for me. But overall, as a character, I really liked when I love his interactions with his friends. I love Badger. I love when there's those interactions, when the two guys come to his house and they're kind of asking about the meth and stuff, like, and he's a little bit like, are they trying to set me up? What's going on here?
Skinny
you know
Pete
what I mean?
Combo. Yeah.
What is it? Skinny Pete and what's the other guy's name?
Combo.
Those are some of my favorite scenes with Jesse, and the idea that this guy obviously has nothing to lose, and now he has this authority figure in his life that's showing up. Again, manipulating him at the end of the day. But I like the idea of the character, and he gets better throughout the series, but in my opinion, he's not a great actor. Walt, my number one question, and you guys have kind of danced around it. I thought one of you were actually going to say something. Walt, my number one question with him throughout the whole series, and especially in this season, is Walt a martyr, or is he doing this for himself?
Yeah, I think that's a great question.
I mean, because he, as you mentioned, Collin, he's had his whole life to do this if he wanted to. And now he knows he's coming to the end, and all of a sudden now he's going to do something for his family. You know what I mean? So is he really doing that as a redemption for himself, or is he really sacrificing for his family? And maybe the answer's both. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think that he had an out with Elliot, said no, and this is about him extracting his own decisions. I think this is, a bottom line at the end of the day, like Zoheb pointed this out in the episode, the downfall that pride cometh before the fall. Mm-hmm. And it's like your pride is what, but dude, if I have terminal cancer and my best friend's like, hey, here's $80 million, like fucking hell yeah. Like I'm not going to go out and like do something illegal to, there's other ways to kind of assert yourself. And I don't know if it's I don't think Walter White, at 20 years old was like, I want to be a drug kingpin. Right. He probably wanted to make his own decisions and probably wanted to be a badass, like everybody does at some point. But,
and to that point, he was also a brilliant chemist.
Right. Yeah. And that's the,
and never really realized the potential in that.
Right. And I think that if the real equation in this, if X equals your family and everything, if every problem comes back to your family, you had an out and you didn't take it. And I think that at some point, I don't really know if there can be any argument saying like, no, this is all about Walt's family and having to take care of them because you had an out. Like it's almost like the FBI coming to you like, hey, we'll wipe your slate clean. You'll go into witness protection and you never have to talk to the mob again. But you just keep doing it for the thrill. It's like, well, that's where that stops. That's on you at that point. You had an out. So I think it's I think at some point he goes definitely to martyr, and then that's where there's a certain part where I think honestly that was kind of my answer, is that when Elliot offers him an out, and it's not the point of no return. That's not the point of no return yet. There is a point of no return for me that I know later on in the show that is fucked up, but this is the point where you have dipped both feet and you are Walter White. It's not, or you are Heisenberg. It's not too late to go back, but now you are, if you're playing Fable, you're getting slowly farther down the path towards the dark side. You're not a Sith Lord yet, but you ain't a Padawan no more,
Right. Two last things on Walt. First of all, my opinion on the Heisenberg thing, which obviously sounds like it differs from Gilligan's, but I think he is making a huge step and a huge decision towards that, if not committing to it, when Jesse gets beat up and he goes to the hospital and he says, "Tell me everything about this guy."
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point in time, he's saying,
I think Collin brings up the same moment in the episode that we recorded.
Oh,
I'm from memory.
I think at that point, he is like, I'm fucking doing this. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
The other side of that, I will say, I have the exact opposite opinion of Bryan Cranston from Aaron Paul, where he is a acting genius. I mean, he is fantastic in this role. And in just about every role he ever does. You know what I mean? But he deserves all those accolades. And he won the Emmy, by the way, for the pilot.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Insane. Carlos?
I think I'll start with Jesse. I think Jesse I don't think they knew what to do with him. Because again, he was supposed to not survive very many episodes into this run. And I feel like it takes a lot of the first season for them to kind of figure out how to even write that character, because a lot of his early dialogue is like, "What this sounds like a square writing
100%.
This is what I think
100%.
someone from the street sounds like." Yeah, and
hello,
even
fellow
his
kids.
Voicemail is like, "What is this
Science, bitch?"
But you know what I saw? I saw a comment the other day. And like very, very relevant, and I'm sorry to bring him up again, but Christopher Nolan using that rapper in his marketing, and that rap song is actually in the movie in the ending credits. And like I saw a great comment when it's just like Christopher Nolan using this rap song is literally "Hello, fellow kids." Oh God,
it's yeah. I think they didn't really know how to write Jesse to begin with, but I do think they find their footing by the end of the season. And I do like the layering in of like, he comes from a pretty well-off home. His parents are pretty cultured. His brother is maybe a robot. Or will definitely become a serial killer later on in life.
This is Dexter.
I like that layering in of like, he's been exposed to more opportunities than you would have believed the first time you see him. And so he's made his decisions as well, that have led him to this point. But he is also, he is a mouse to Walter's, cat, and he's just being toyed with. Like the idea that like it's Jesse's the one who's going to go out and sell this stuff. It's Jesse who's going to get just pummeled. Like Jesse's got the hard job here, but Walter will always make him feel like, I'm doing the real work and you're just selling it. It's like, yes, but I'm selling it to very dangerous people. I'm not going to Walmart to see if they want to wholesale my meth. I've got to go to Tuco. And then for Walter, my thesis on Walter White for the entirety of the series, but it's evident from the beginning, is that Walter's got two fatal flaws, and they are, he's prideful, as we've covered, but he's also regretful of the choices he's made, but the way it manifests is anger. He is angry. He's very angry.
Mm-hmm. He fucks up that glove box, dude. Jesus.
He is pissed. And he feels like he's been wronged. But it's like, no, you made these decisions. Like, you're
Right.
the one who backed out of gray matter. You know, like you're the one. Like, you know, it's like these are things that you know, clearly he and was it Gretchen? They had something, but she didn't end up with him. He ended
Right.
up dating the hostess from the restaurant down the street.
Could have been a very different life.
Exactly. Like he's constantly reminded that he made the wrong decisions that led him to this point, and he's angry about it, but he's not angry necessarily at himself. It's angry at everyone else. But he's also, again, very prideful, and so he won't take help if it's from people that he doesn't, you know, that he's angry at. He won't take that help. And I think it's a toxic combination, obviously, and I think it manifests in his cancer. And I think that the other main thesis of Walter White is cancer incarnate, and he is malignant and he is spreading. And that's, I mean, like, Jesse's life is now
that's a good
worse.
take. I'm sorry. Like, how do we
I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah,
Fuck.
you know what? I will cede the hosting to Collin for the next for like 4 seasons, dude. That is great.
I didn't have this thought until Collin started talking. Then I was like, let me think about everything in my life while I've got these years. And then I came up with this point.
Because you've got years while I'm talking. That's the thing.
Exactly. I was a much younger man before this pod started. But no, I think Walter White is the cancer, and you've already seen, like, Jesse's life is much worse now for having run into Walter White.
Fuck.
Jesse would have had a great life. Jesse would have had a great life selling dime bags on the corner. I mean, he had that. He had the house.
Jesse would have been fine. Maybe Jesse would have gone to prison. You know, it appears Jesse would have dodged the Crazy Eight ratting on Emilio bullet, but he would have eventually maybe ended up in prison. But his life is so much worse now. Like, he's dealing way ahead of his, you know, weight class in terms of the level of criminal he's interacting with. His life is in more danger now than it was before. And so yeah, like he ends up in the hospital. Like he's in a worse spot. And I think that is a theme that will just kind of run in every direction. Like Walter White spreads the cancer to everyone. And I think that's what I love the most about, it's not even the arc from, like, Mr. Chips to Scarface. It's the arc of, like, how will I bring down this entire community just by being this malignant force? And I think that's really the through line of the entire series without spoiling any plot points. I think that's what happens because everything is because Walter is the cancer.
It's like a black hole. Like, to me, what you just said about Jesse is kind of like, it's like Jesse's playing paintball and he hits the wall, and instead of just hitting the wall and stopping, he jumps over the wall, and now you're playing with live ammo. And it's like, oh, fuck. Like, that is so, like, yeah, you're still playing, but now when you get tagged, those ramifications are so much worse. Like, oh, man, I did not, like, I gotta go smoke a cigarette. Like, fuck. That just, like, brain fucked me, dude. I did not think about that. Oh, wait, yeah, it's on me, right? Jesse Walter?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
You have no time to smoke a cigarette because you got to talk about it.
No.
I do. I've got the time. I'll go learn how to smoke.
We'll be back in like half an hour when Colin's done talking.
You started a cigarette company. Fuck.
I'll send you a cigarette, Zoheb.
Yeah.
I'll mail it to you. It'll get there. You can keep smoking it.
My carrier pigeon will just drop it off.
I love you, Collin.
Love you too, buddy. Dude, what do you think I started off? I'm on the phone all day. I'm a debt collector. I talk like a mammoth, dude. I know this. No, the thing that's interesting, I think, about Jesse and Walter, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say. Like, seeing the Mr. Chips to Scarface, yeah, that's really interesting. I think Floyd had a really interesting point of martyr to not martyr, whatever you want to, you know, the antithesis of that is he's not an anti-hero, he's not a villain, he's like an anti-villain. It's very, very strange, like what kind of murky ground he's at right now. But specifically with Jesse is that, you know, like what Floyd said, Jesse would be happy selling dime bags and just staying in his aunt's house. But I also question, at what point does that either A, not become enough, or B, does something happen that, he gets popped and he doesn't, does 5 years in so-and-so, and he gets out and he's like, I'm fucking done. I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah, it's kind of like chopping off the finger to save the hand. Like, yeah, you lost something and you did get pinched and you had to lose some time, but at the same time, it ended up being better than losing the whole hand or the whole arm, which is kind of what happens as he goes further with Walter from what I know of the show.
Can I say something real quick? I forgot to.
Absolutely not. No.
Because the season gets truncated to 7 episodes instead of 9. I think that they were playing with an arc where Jesse was going to go back home and like live a straight life, and it wasn't going to work out. Like he goes home,
right,
and they find the joint right away, and he gets kicked out. And then he tries to get a job at the bank, and then he finds out the bank job is not the job he thought he was signing up for, and then it kind of just gets thrown away immediately. But I think if they had another 2 episodes, you might have seen that play out for maybe a full episode of time, or like a whole other 40 minutes of him trying to break good, basically, but being drawn back in because he has no options anymore.
Oh, I love it how they both had that Carlito's way, like they pulled me back in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had that hilarious scene where it's like, I thought we would debrief.
Yeah.
Talking about like by the pool, I thought we would debrief. But then, and then an episode later or whatever, it's like, you want to cook?
Yeah.
They both came back to it.
That's the thing. And really, I like Jesse because, yes, there is, like what Carlos said of just this, you are a tumor, you are a black hole, just pulling a lot of shit in around you. But at the same time, I think that there is a positive effect of Walter on Jesse where, what is that guy's name? Like raccoon or ferret or skunk or what is that guy's name?
Badger.
Yeah, there we go.
Name all the other rodents. Let's go.
Ferret.
The flying Mongolian squirrel. When he's hanging out with that guy and the guy's like, Moon, yeah, look, it's fucking awesome. And he's like, this is shit. Start over. And it's like, dude, I really appreciated that moment from Jesse being like, this is not good. I have seen the horizon and this is not it. And I'm like, that is fucking awesome. I love that moment of being like, thinking you have, oh man, I can cook some pretty good shit, and be like, you don't know fucking anything, dude. Like you have no idea. And there's both good and bad. Like if you just applied that to a safe, legal, profession, that would be awesome. If you just showed up to work every day with that attitude, that would be incredible. But unfortunately, you turn that into dissolving people in a bathtub and cooking meth. Like that's the problem, is not your attitude. It's your medium for that. So I think that it's interesting seeing that kind of progression in Jesse, but also at what point, I think there's also something, at what point does who needs who more? I think that Walt has a feeling of like, you need me more than I do you. And like, no, motherfucker. Like I can still cook. It's not as good, but I can sell it and I'll make it and I make good money. And I don't care about selling 4 pounds a week. I was happy selling dime bags. Like, I don't care. You're the one coming to me. And it's like, so you turning the tables and manipulating me and turning me into a puppet and trying to make me feel bad for all this stuff. Like, I think that's an interesting thing, but at the same time, then you have Walter coming right back, and he's like, they beat the shit out of him. Like Walter going to Tuco and throwing the meth bomb and stuff is like, I think part of that is definitely a business thing because they beat the shit out of him and robbed him. That's definitely something with business, but that also feels like Walter being like, I came to this kid, I landed on this kid's doorstep, I made this his problem, I am the one who's responsible to take care of it, I am the one who knocks. And I'm like, cool, like I like that. Like, I don't know, because it's never specifically stated how Walter feels about it, but I get the interpretation that he is guilty over that he feels guilty, not only business-wise, but also like, dude, this young kid who, like, it's like seeing, you were a student of mine and I got you into trouble and got you violently beaten. Like, I can't imagine that. Like, I couldn't imagine the guilt that I would feel over that. But I think that whole thing is 75% guilt, 25% business. But I think that's the first moment that Walter does something that's almost elective to help Jesse. He doesn't have to do that. Like, it's not like he has to go there. Maybe he does to do business, but it doesn't feel business. It feels personal. And I think that's a really interesting moment. They have some really great, like I love what Floyd says. He's like debrief. Like Walter's face when he says it is so good. I think their whole relationship is interesting, and knowing what I know of future seasons and where it's going, and exactly the kind of person that Walter becomes, I can't say that what he does is valiant as in what he does in this season. I think in this season what he does at the end for to not only for a business thing, but to be like, dude, you fucked with. I am in business with this person. You hurt this person, I will hurt you.
I love that handing the reins moment too. Like he talked about, he couldn't do the cooking, and then when Walter can, he's like, "You got to finish it."
Yes,
and that was. It's almost like some Ricky Vaughn getting called in the ninth inning to strike the guy out. You know what I mean? It's like it's his moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he has to step up and do it.
Is that sports?
Hell yeah!
Are you talking about sports, Floyd?
It's a sports movie.
Okay.
Well, wasn't cricket.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say
we haven't. Oh, fuck you!
It wasn't Australian albino scorpion catching or something crazy.
It wasn't wallaby racing.
You watch yourself. You watch yourself.
But no, that's my thoughts on it. I think that as for now, I think that they are, somewhat friends, but at the same time, business partners first, friends second. But that scene at the end makes me feel like Walter is kind of, electing to do that, not out of, I don't know, it gets kind of murky, and I could go on for that forever of like, which one is it? Is it more this or is it more that? I choose to personally interpret that as Walter, not only, it's a win-win, it's a business thing, but also it's me being able to compromise on my guilt over getting this kid beaten, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
totally.
There you go.
Well, Carlos, those cigarettes you sent me when Collin started talking, they just arrived. So no, that's honestly a good take, because I had not considered the fact that Walt needs Jesse more than Jesse needs Walt. That is not something that had occurred to me at all, actually. That is such a fantastic take. Let me just kick this off by saying, so watching this show with my mum for the first time very recently was one of the greatest joys of my life, because okay, so here's the let me paint a picture for you. She grew up in Fiji in a small town. She'd never seen a show like Breaking Bad from start to finish. She'd never seen a United States produced TV show from start to finish. Breaking Bad was her first TV show from start to finish. Yeah, I know. We actually started watching my dad and I actually started watching Better Call Saul before we showed her Breaking Bad. So she saw the prequel before Breaking Bad. And, as we're sitting here recording this, Better Call Saul still has that final season to air, right? So Better Call Saul will be the second show that she watches from start to finish. So she is only embroiled in the Vince Gilligan world of everything.
I'm surprised not every episode your mom was like, and just passing out. Dude, every episode.
No, it was fantastic. Honestly, because my dad and I had seen Breaking Bad before, and we were showing her Breaking Bad for the first time. So we knew what was coming, and we were just like, get ready for this, be prepared. But I bring this up for a reason, because when Jesse appears on the scene, right? Don't forget, the first time we see Jesse, he is tumbling ass first out of a second-story window with a big-titted blonde who's, throwing him his pants, right? So my mom, not being introduced mostly to the gray areas of storytelling, mostly thinks that people on TV should either be good guys or bad guys, right? It's that very black and white, old school
white hat, black hat,
right?
Man.
Exactly, right.
You know what I mean?
It's like a Western.
If we're going Westworld, white hat, black hat, right? Exactly.
Heisenberg has a black hat.
There we go. There it is. And clothing plays a massive part in Breaking Bad. Trust me. So as she sees Breaking Bad, as she sees Jesse tumbling ass first now, she's like, oh, this guy's not a good guy. This guy's a bad guy. This guy's a bad character. Blah,
interesting.
Blah. As the show goes on, it's really interesting to see her perspective of Jesse change, because she is literally, as things are playing out in later seasons, even at the end of season 1, when Jesse gets beat up, he's like, oh my God, poor Jesse. Oh my God, this poor kid. It's like there is this huge level of sympathy that she affords Jesse that she didn't afford him in that first couple episodes, where it's just like, this guy's just a shit kicker, dude. This guy's just he's a runt. He is literally a runt, and why should I care for him? And it's like, hold on, Mom.
That's an interesting experience. Right. That's cool.
And
that's interesting.
Absolutely.
You really want to fuck her up, you should show her The Wire. Be like, who's the good guy in this one?
Nobody. The corners of Baltimore. But no, yeah, it was honestly an insane experience to really like see how someone perceives Jesse through those eyes. And as I first watched this show, Jesse was a character. Jesse and Walt to me were the protagonists. You know, I'm 17, 18 years old. I'm not thinking about Breaking Bad the way that I do now. These two are the protagonists. They're your leads. So they're supposed to be the good guys in my eyes, like, you know, at that age. And back then, the way I remembered their relationship was that they were helping each other, which is 100% not the case. They are helping each other on the surface, but when you drill down beneath it, they are not helping each other. One of these guys is getting fucked. The other is being advantaged, right? Like, it's just
the fucker, not the fucky.
Yeah, right. The fucker, not the fucky. So, man, just you know, seeing this show again over multiple viewings, it really peels back the amount of layers there are on these two characters in particular, and the way each character kind of like interacts with the other character at a certain point, and it's mind-blowing. It honestly made me think about TV in a very different way. You know, I was approaching shows like Lost and Prison Break very linearly. You know, like very like, you know, Prison Break. He's in prison to break out his brother. Like, you know, like it's just that's all it is, right? But like Breaking Bad introduces you to elements that are so much deeper and so much more meaningful. And it just totally changed the way that I view media, like any media. But look, that's kind of like my high level view on Walt and Jesse. It's not super nuanced because I guess I'm kind of relying on my last 7 episodes of like how Jesse. But I mean, look, like you said, Floyd, Bryan Cranston is doing an incredible job on every single episode of this show. Every single episode of the show. And I will need to respectfully disagree on Aaron Paul. I think Aaron Paul doesn't start off amazingly. This first season, he's a bit rocky. But once you get to the season 3 or the season 4 or the season 5, dude, I actually think season 2, he is doing a lot of heavy lifting. A lot of heavy lifting with a particular character that we'll come to know in season 2. So yeah. I think
I know what you're talking about. That's a good point.
I think he really develops and really starts to shine as the show really goes on. So I think both actors are doing a phenomenal job. Before we do close this out, let's have you guys, I know Collin you haven't, Floyd and Carlos, I know you have seen Better Call Saul.
Yes.
So, what are your guys' thoughts?
I'm not up to it right now. I'm not
You're not
up to speed, but I've watched the first 2 or 3 seasons. I don't even know where they're at. I've definitely watched a lot of that. Yes.
Okay. So, as you guys, I mean, Carlos, I know you've seen all of it. I've seen all of it so far up to date. And without obviously spoiling it for Collin and Floyd, how do you think Better Call Saul fits into the landscape of Breaking Bad? Like, do you think? I kind of like know your shallow thoughts on it. I know that you think it is a wholly better show than Breaking Bad, and at points I agree. Honestly, I do, and I didn't agree initially.
I mean, it's kind of like there's Cheers and then there's Frasier, and they're both 2 of the greatest sitcoms of all time. You know, and it's like on a given day, if you told me Cheers is better than Frasier, I'm like, okay, and if you told me Frasier is better than Cheers, yeah, I can see both. For me, Better Call Saul, for me, just kind of, I think they've had 5 years of practice to tell the stories the way they want to tell them.
That's true.
And like, it's just, you're watching them just executing from day one and knowing basically where they want to take it from day one. I think I would imagine, because when they did Breaking Bad, like you said, they had 2 seasons outlined. They only knew that they were going to make 1. And even then, they didn't get to make as many as they wanted. By the time Better Call Saul comes around, AMC's like, hey, Vince, we will pay you to make anything you want to make, because the last season of Breaking Bad were some of the highest rated television they ever had. So he gets years, and I'm sure they have most of those arcs plotted out. Now, they don't have every episode plotted out. That would be insane. But I'm sure they knew where they wanted to go. And like the general, like, this season we'll get to this point, this season we'll get to that point. And so watching it execute, it's tremendous. They don't have Bryan Cranston. That is a thing. Like Better Call Saul has some tremendous actors. Like Bob Odenkirk is fantastic. But he's not Bryan Cranston.
She is the Bryan Cranston of that show.
Yeah, she's amazing. But yeah, she is. She really is. But the show's not about her. Right. Whereas, yeah, Walter White, Bryan Cranston as Walter White, you don't really get that kind of performance in Better Call Saul. But I do think I enjoy the crime aspect of Better Call Saul. I enjoy the legal aspect of Better Call Saul.
I enjoy the legal aspect of the Better Call Saul, dude.
I am Jack's total lack of surprise.
I remember listening to, it was the same guys who used to write for Grantland. They were doing a review for it, for Better Call Saul on The Ringer. And they were saying that, like, originally they're like, it's a good show, but like ultimately, do I really care about like senior citizens in an old folks home? That's the thrust of this season. It's like, yes, it informs character so much, like what he's willing to do. And like the fact that he is like a legitly good lawyer, but he just cannot get right. He's trying to break good and he just can't do it. And because he's inherently kind of a bad person, it's so good to watch that struggle.
It's beautiful.
I love that show. Highly recommend it. If you like Collin, don't watch it till you're done with Breaking Bad, but absolutely. It's so good. Yeah.
I just imagine a scenario where Vince Gilligan is sleeping and like he wakes up to this beeping sound and he goes to his window and it's just a dump truck full of money backing into
basically it.
Okay, I guess we'll do Better Call Saul.
Because they're shooting this, they shoot all of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul in Albuquerque. He said like this allowed me to keep 300 people employed. Like that crew at the end of Breaking Bad, cool. Yeah, they were disbanding and they were going their separate ways. And he's like, wait, we can keep you employed. We can keep most of the same crew and everything on the show. And I think it was like, he didn't want to do a spinoff of Breaking Bad, but two of his main writers, I think, were like, we have this idea. And they pitched it and he's like, yeah, that's kind of great. And so, yeah, so it was just kind of like, we can get the band back together and make this really good show. And, might as well.
Yeah. Better Call Saul initially has that perspective of like, it lives in the shadow of Breaking Bad, but then there is a point in that show when it becomes its own thing. And once it becomes its own thing, and it's very early on, that it's like, okay, this is incredible television all over again, Let's close this out. Like we've been here for an hour and 51 minutes. Jesus Christ!
I do have one note. I have one note on that Better Call Saul that you guys might know. You guys might already know this. I'm saying, Ken Wins, right? The BMW guy. He's in Better Call Saul, right?
Yep.
Who?
That character, the Ken Wins, like where he blows his car up.
Oh yeah,
that guy is in 2 episodes.
That on the episode.
Yeah.
I mentioned that on the episode.
Oh yeah. I was like, wait a minute.
And also in that scene when he gets out of the car, he says, "I have this badass lawyer. He has like a set of ninjas."
Yes,
like that's what he says when he's on the cell phone. Yeah,
there is an episode.
I was like, Ken Wins. Yeah. I was like, is that like a wrestler? Or?
There is an episode in season 2. It's actually the episode that we get introduced to Saul. The episode is called Better Call Saul, where he says a couple of lines that I will talk about when we get to that episode, and it is incredible. Like it's an incredible thread. There's also Crazy 8, the actor that played Crazy 8 and the character Crazy 8 is in Better Call Saul in a big bad way toward the later seasons. So that's all I'm going to talk about on that element of it. Like I'm not going to drill down on it, but yeah, it's fantastic. Carlos and Floyd. This is going to be might be a bit of a strange question, but I just thought I'd ask it anyway.
You're just going to be like, strip now.
Yeah, lose the clothes.
What is your favorite Depeche Mode album?
What is your advice to Collin going forward in relation to the show?
Good question.
Oh, just that?
And like, yeah,
breathe through your nose.
And like how to breathe through your nose, and how to maximize his experience with Breaking Bad. Probably,
I'll start that off. The first thing I would say, and I guess maybe this relates to my first experience with the show, was I think you're doing made a fantastic choice in not just sitting down one Saturday and watching it all. Okay. I mean, to give yourself a little bit of a decompress and to think about it and evaluate it. And then also, I think us three are probably a little bit jealous that you actually get to go on somewhere and talk about it once a week. You know what I mean? So, and to really evaluate the show the first time through. Yeah. I don't really have much more advice for you other than I would continue to do that. I would watch it, even if it's not once a week, but I would give yourself a day or two, because as we've talked for 2 hours, there is a lot to unpack with this show. So that'd be my take.
And it feels like even more that could go on. Like I feel like we could easily etch in another 30 to 45. I definitely could. Oh, yeah. But no, I like that because I would do that, but Zoheb won't let me. Like that's the whole point, is that I can't just sit down and I can't even watch 2 episodes back to back. That's the, oh my God. It's like going to the fridge and you eat one thing and the fridge just locks down. You're like, no.
It's a bunch of things. It's the way the show is kind of like structured, right? So like we want to keep that element of surprise for Collin. And, it inspires a bit more of a better conversation on each episode, but also our schedules, right? Like Collin and I we can't record on weekdays simply because we have working jobs. Like, like where I am, it's daytime, and where you are, it's nighttime. We just can't do it.
Right.
Like, so weekends always work better for us. So we can only do weekends.
My first advice was going to be, don't keep watching them one at a time. Don't skip ahead. I know Netflix makes that very difficult because it just throws the next one on, and then it's like,
dude, yeah.
It's like, do you want to skip this 4-second intro? Like, I couldn't even get. It's like the theme song is boom, 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 and that's it. And then you're in the episode. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
But I would say watch every episode.
Time is money.
Yeah. Oh, what just happened? Whoa, my computer. The monitor went down. I was like, is this a horror film? I would say what I did when the show was on was I would watch it the night it came out, and I would watch it again the next day, because it's just, usually because I was watching it as I was falling asleep, and so I wanted to see the 5 minutes that I inevitably missed somewhere in the middle. But I would watch every episode twice at minimum, because there's just so much. Not only because because it's great, but there's just so much information that, like, things you think you don't need to notice that will come up maybe even like a season later, that'll be like, oh yeah, they did go to that place and talk to this guy. Or like, how am I supposed to remember this guy? Oh, right. He was from, this one throwaway scene from, 7 episodes ago. I think that Vince Gilligan is excellent at that. And so, yeah, you owe it to yourself to watch things more than once. I would recommend.
Yeah, see, I'm already noticing that like I'll watch an episode on like a Thursday, go to record on a Saturday, and be like, fuck, what happened? And kind of like blank for a second, be like, oh wait, I have to like mentally. I'll tell you a funny story real quick too. So I'm on Instagram, and I guess, my phone knows I've been texting about Breaking Bad and liking and sharing stuff about Breaking Bad. So I'm flipping through Instagram, and here's this scene, and it's Elliot and then Walter, and Walter's got a head of hair, and it's like, no! And I just started like, get it away from me! Like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, you fuck! I was like, I was so, dude, I was so close. No, dude, it was 2 seconds in, and I just threw the phone, and I was like, get away from me.
How about the de-aging on Bryan Cranston for that one scene? It's like, he's got to be in the darkest laboratory ever.
I do want to say, because I think that, I kind of said, where's Walter's point to Heisenberg? I think Floyd and I both kind of said kind of where we're at, that I mean, unless there was something else you wanted to add to that, Floyd.
No.
Okay, cool. I didn't want to be like, let me speak for Floyd because he's done. No, I'm just kidding. Carlos and Zoheb, that's my only question. Is at what point do you think that it's like you have both feet, and not that you can't go back, but that you are both feet firmly planted in Heisenberg now? Like, what is that point? Not of no return, but of like, not being in both worlds anymore.
Carlos?
Not all at one time.
There's a moment, and I'm pretty sure it happens in season 2. It's not the moment everyone else is thinking of, but it's Walter is talking to someone. To do this in the most spoiler-free way I can. Walter is talking to someone in like the parking lot of like a Home Depot or something like that, and he's basically just like he basically commits to the Heisenberg persona at a point in time where he doesn't need to, where he no longer.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It. Yeah, and that's when I'm like, oh no, this is a straight on choice now. Like this is you weren't thrust into this position, you are taking it, and that's when I think he's Heisenberg.
Okay, cool.
Here's my take, and I initially was in agreement with Vince Gilligan's moment, which comes in season 2, towards the tail end of it. Like that was for the longest time my moment where he becomes Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad, where he becomes Heisenberg.
I am Mad Men.
I know. But now I think it comes much, much earlier on, and it's a conscious decision on Walt's part to turn down the money from Gretchen and Elliot Schwartz completely out of pride. Like, this is a legal way for you to get treatment. This is a very above board way for you to really kind of like live, to survive. Like, you don't need to be able to, you don't need to do the criminal activities that you're going to be doing. For me, it's the moment where he goes to Jesse and he says, "Let's cook." Right? He goes to his garage and he says, "Let's cook." That to me is the moment that it becomes Heisenberg, because it's just at this point he's already like he's foregone the legal methods. Like, it's just like, I have a legal way out of this. I have a very above board way out of this. I'm going to make a conscious decision to not go down that route and go down the route of the gray area. Like that to me is the moment where it becomes Heisenberg. But I think if you're talking about positive actions, then I think it is Vince Gilligan's moment in season 2. Because that is, we'll get to it, Colin. Maybe you even already know about it. I don't know, because it's very well kind of like publicized. It's very it's like everyone talks about it all the time. So maybe you know about it, maybe you don't. But yeah,
I'm jealous though of Collin that he knows those. And then he's going to see it and be like, "Oh, shit, that's when they did this scene." You know what I mean?
The lead up to it. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for joining us, man. Seriously, Floyd and Carlos, this has been absolutely fantastic. We were, when we were like preparing the episode, we were like, all right, this is going to be like an hour 15 tops. But... and I'm like thinking, man, these two have watched the entire season in preparation of this show. That would be doing a disservice if we just had like an hour-long episode. So, Carlos, why don't you let us know about Hey Do You Remember and where we can find you as we start to wind things down?
All right, so I do a podcast with 2 of my buddies. We used to work at a Starbucks together. It's called Hey Do You Remember? And we've been going for 7 years now, reviewing movies and TV shows that are about 15 years old or older. So obviously every year that line gets moved up a little bit. We're now eligible to do things in 2005, which is insane. We're getting to the point almost where I met those two. Like, it's like, that's how long ago.
The first movie that just popped into my head was like Mission Impossible 3. I don't know why. I don't know why. The J.J. Abrams Mission Impossible. I don't know why.
We're at Hey Do You Remember? You can find us wherever you get any podcasts, and then at HDYR Podcast on the socials. You will find us.
And absolutely sign up to their Patreon, because your Patreon is amazing.
Hey.
I don't know about Colin, but I am giving it to you guys Bobo Nasty style. So that is the level that I am at. And you guys have great bonus content. So honestly, really, really, really dig it, dude.
Oh, we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Floyd, talk to me about the pop list. Your last 2 episodes on cannibalism were absolutely incredible. Thank you for including the New South Wales one. That was fantastic and such a fantastic listen, because that shit happened 3 hours north of me, and it is insane.
Wow. Amazing. The Pop List. So we're very different than your guys' podcast and Carlos. So we don't cover movies or anything. So I started out as like a pop culture podcast. I've got some pop culture episodes, but I quickly kind of evolved into facts and figures and interesting stories and things like serial killers that were never caught. Collin has been on the show. We did a 3-episode run on the Zodiac Killer. Very popular. And as you mentioned, we just did 2 on cannibalism. We've done hero dogs and ghost ships and heists and, you know, all kinds of crazy things like that. It's a solo podcast from me, independent podcast. You can find me, you know, just about anywhere else, just as Carlos said, you know, Apple, Spotify, you know, whatever. You know, we're small, you know, relatively speaking, a small podcast, but we have some dedicated listeners, and the people that like it seem to really like it. You know, I try to get people to, I tell people that, you know, don't pass it on to everybody, but pass it on to everybody that you think would enjoy this. You know what I mean? Because it is a little niche, but I enjoy doing it, and hope you give it a listen.
It's outstanding.
Dude, hell, I have always said, if you like History's Mysteries or like Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack or even like BuzzFeed Unsolved, dude, you and BuzzFeed Unsolved is like cheese and wine. It's so good together, dude. It's like so Floyd sent me, and I don't even know if I ever said thank you. I feel like such a schmuck, but Floyd sent me like some stickers and like coasters.
I'm looking
so
like right at one right now. It's like on my audio
interface. Yeah, like on my kitchen table, my living room, there's these, you know, Pop List coasters, and my dog's harness, you know, on the front of it is this big chest thing, is a big Pop List sticker on the front of it.
Awesome.
And I just advertising like a fly, like a machine going, like an airplane going by. Zoe, get us out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, do you have anything else to say about season 1 before we wrap this up? Nope.
I do not.
Nope. We're all tapped out. Awesome.
No, that's it.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here at Bad Crystal, a Breaking Bad podcast. This has been really fun. We are really glad to get season 1 in the can because there are huge things to come over the next 4 seasons and change. And I am so keen to see Collin's face just change as things happen. And honestly, Floyd and Carlos, we absolutely will have you guys back onto the Bad Crystal podcast to help us cover with our future wrap-ups, because this has been incredible. Like, it's been so good to get other perspectives, dude. Like Floyd, you were talking about just the marriage perspective, like when you were like with Skylar, and I was just like, that is outstanding, man. Like, it's just so good to get different perspectives. So guys, you know where to find Bad Crystal at this point. It's, you know, we're keeping our same Midnight Double Feature stuff. So the After Party is our Facebook group. We're on Instagram, which is at Midnight Double Feature, and Twitter, which is at MDF Pod. If you want to email us, it's midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. Sign up to our Patreon called The Green Room. You can head to patreon.com/midnightdoublefeature, or just go to our website, which is midnightdoublefeature.com. I am so not used to saying that.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, let's get out of here. Thanks for joining us.